You may have heard about my trifecta strategy for living the nomad capitalist lifestyle, in which you own or rent homes in 3 different cities around the world that you enjoy, and you spend relatively equal amounts of time in those cities. This is a way to enjoy both lifestyle benefits, where you get to enjoy different places around the world. You don't have to feel too settled, but you also don't have to drag a suitcase. You can also offer a number of financial benefits. But in this video, I'm going to share with you a new strategy that I've been thinking about called the modified trifecta. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson, and if you would like my team and I to personally help you create your own nomad capitalist strategy to keep more of your own money and live a better life, you can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com. Now let's talk about the trifecta. I originally came up with this several years ago because I was tired of dragging a bag all around the world. I did it for years. There were years when I went to, in some cases, 2 or 3 dozen countries. I was flying hundreds of thousands of miles a year. It was fun when I was younger, and I built the foundations of Nomad Capitalist by meeting hundreds of people that I put into my trusted network. But eventually I got sick of it. And so eventually I started what I call the base plus travel, where I got an apartment, I stashed a bunch of my stuff in the wardrobe, and I went back to traveling most of the year from there. And so as I progressed, and as I talked to more people, and as I really learned what I'd liked, I said, hey, I'd like to spend more time in home bases, but I do like the idea to spend different, be in different places, different parts of the year. For me, for example, I talked about this strategy initially in Bogota. I like Bogota. I like Mexico City in the Americas. You could spend 3 or 4 months there. I like Kuala Lumpur in Asia. You could spend 4 or 5 months there. And so again, relatively equal amounts of time. Here's what I've seen lately that's led me to the modified trifecta. For me personally, I like bigger cities. I can tolerate smaller cities. I can tolerate rural areas. I enjoy flying down to Ubud in Bali for 5 or 6 or 7 days, and I enjoy being one with the earth and having the unlimited selection of juices. I really like that actually, but I can't live there full time. I know a lot of people who do, and I think that's great. Nothing wrong with that, but for me, my default switch is a big city. Okay, your default switch might be something else. So this is where the modified trifecta comes in. Let's say you have 1 or preferably 2 places that you really like a lot. For me, for example, Mexico City and Kuala Lumpur. These 2 bookends basically can be the bookends for your modified trifecta, where let's say you're going to spend 4.5 or 5 months in each one. So 5 months in Kuala Lumpur in this example, 5 months in Mexico City. Now, I'm not saying you can never leave. I mean, one of the things that I like about both of those countries, Mexico and Malaysia, is you can do domestic travel. You can go to Penang or Langkawi in Malaysia, other smaller cities. In Mexico, you've got a nearly endless number of options. And also, because you're in your base cities, you could be in Mexico City. Hey, let's go down to Colombia for a week. Maybe you do an investment deal there. You want to go check on your property. Maybe you want to explore, the temples in Guatemala, or go to the U.S. or whatever. Malaysia, same thing. Maybe you want to go to Singapore. So your actual time in those countries might not be 5 months, which may be helpful when you're doing your financial planning from a tax perspective and other perspectives. But you're basically in those homes for the majority of those bookended, let's call it 5 months each. Now, what that allows you to do is spend some time, I think for a lot of folks, it'd be the summer months, perhaps going home. I talked to folks who were from Canada, for example. They like the idea of spending those 2 months in Canada that are relatively warm back at home. And so, 2 months in Canada, I'm not giving tax advice here, but that may be for some people an okay amount of time to spend in Canada. There's obviously a lot more nuance to that than that. For Australians or New Zealanders or what have you, you might flip it to where obviously summer weather is in different months, and so you could do it that way. In my particular situation, what I like the idea is having 2 bigger cities bookended. And obviously Kuala Lumpur is not a huge city, before you point that out. It's not a mega city, but there's a lot to do. There's lots of opportunities there. So let's say Kuala Lumpur and Mexico City is my particular examples. Those would be the bookends. Now, for me, I have little apartments in Belgrade. I'm in Montenegro. I'm in Tbilisi. And so you could spend those 2 months traveling. You could just say, hey, we're going to go from one base to the next. And along the way, we're just going to drag a suitcase and do a bunch of traveling. Or, hey, what I might do is I might say, hey, we're going to fly to, let's say, Istanbul, do a ton of shopping, put everything in the bag. So we're not, taking clothing, taking stuff from any of the bases. And whatever, we're going to travel around for 2 months. You can just do that. You could just go and visit a bunch of tourist locations. Or what you could do is, in my case, you have a couple different smaller bases. You could go and spend time in your bases. So, for example, Mrs. H has family in Tbilisi. I enjoy, popping into Tbilisi. It always there's a good feeling of home. I couldn't live there full time. I know people who have written to me and said they are doing that because I've suggested it to them, and I'm really happy to hear that. But for me, I've learned more about myself. It's not quite bustling enough for me, but I love a pop-in. So we might go to Tbilisi and pop in for 3 weeks and do our obligatory summer visit. I do like Montenegro. I found that 4 months in Montenegro was a bit much. Again, I like the big city. If your thing might be you want to flip it. You want 10 months a year in small areas or smaller population areas and 2 months in the big city. So you can adapt this to your whims. But these are, you can see there's a lot of different possibilities. I had one guy that we were helping. He said, I want 6 bases. And so you might eventually realize 2 of those bases are bookends that you like a lot, and the other 4 could just be pop-ins. I like spending time in Montenegro, and I love going out onto my balcony and enjoying the beautiful, calm sea view. But after Mrs. H and I spent 4 months there in the summer, we said, that's a little bit too much. Let's scale it back. So let's make that part of our modified trifecta possibly. Belgrade, very close. Tiva to Belgrade, 45 minutes. I like Belgrade. I'm getting a little apartment there. And after 7 to 10 days, I'd like to move on as well. And so, what I want you to consider is the opportunity to, make lifestyle investments. I think if you're going to have, multiple different home bases, you probably would want to buy them. I think, renting numerous apartments around the world would get frustrating to maintain 6 different leases. But, maybe you could buy 2 properties. Maybe you own some smaller properties for the shoulder season. Or maybe you just travel during the shoulder season. Again, it's all up to what you want. But what I'm doing here is always looking for more ways for people to be able to live the nomad capitalist lifestyle in a way that serves them. And what I see is that you are looking for more creative ways to be able to get a taste of different places that you like, but also not give up the aspect of adventure. So stability plus adventure, I think the modified trifecta is something that's worth considering. What I want you to do now is leave a comment below with what your modified trifecta would look like. How do you think you could apply this in your old life? I want to hear from you. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist. I wrote this book, which you can find on Amazon, to distill a lot of the stuff we talk about in these videos and a lot of the stuff I've learned over the last decade plus traveling all around the world, teaching you about how to legally reduce your taxes, build your personal freedom, and create wealth faster. Definitely get a copy of this book if you want to learn more. Now, if you want to watch more videos, make sure you subscribe to our channel and make sure you click the notifications bell so you never miss one of our new videos with more tips on how to go where you're treated best. And if you're already a 6- or 7-figure entrepreneur and you'd like to put these strategies in place for yourself, go to nomadcapitalist.com and learn about how I can help you.